everybody. It's Laura and Brooke here with MyVirtual.Lawyer. We're going to talk lawyering outside the lines. I don't know why that's a little bit hard for me to say. It is lawyering outside the lines. I'm working on my third week of having a cough, so keep that in mind as you're watching, please. Give me some patience. So we are talking in February about virtual law firms, and that's going to be a big part of our focus. And today we're going to be talking specifically about 5 things that you need to know in order to launch a virtual law firm. We're going to break these down a little bit more in detail in weeks ahead, but we're just going to make sure that we give you the top list of the 5 things that you need to know if you're thinking about launching a virtual law firm, and a little bit of information about each of those things. So the first thing, number 1, is research the rules and regulations in your jurisdiction. This is key for you because there are certain places, there are certain states that require things like a bona fide office. And even if there are some nuances even with the bona fide office. Sometimes you have to be present in that office for a specific number of days of the week. Sometimes it can just be, you saying, a friend's law firm is letting you pretend that you work there. But the rules and regulations of what virtual law firms are allowed to do, or even if they're allowed to exist, that's something it's fairly easy to find. Look in your ethical rules, rules of professional responsibility, and see kind of what your options are there. If you're multi-jurisdictional, that's going to make a difference. You need to look at your state and city regulations to see if you need to register. And if that's the case, how you need to register your business there. And then another big, huge thing besides the bona fide office is to, look at what practice areas you want to practice. There are some practice areas that are more restrictive than others on things like virtual law firms, limited scope, things of that nature. Right. Excuse me. And whether or not they're completely more, like they're restrictive in the rules, or whether or not it's just kind of frowned upon, things, especially in federal court, they're a little bit more restrictive than some of your state court practice areas that you'll see.
Right. And second is that you need to register your domain and create your website. So we use WordPress, Wix is a good one, and what is it? Squarespace?
Squarespace, yes.
So Squarespace. So those are 3 big ones that you can use that are pretty user-friendly. When you're registering your domain, the 2 big ones, a lot of people use GoDaddy. We use name.com. So any of those places you can go, you can search for it, see if it's even an available domain. I would suggest kind of doing that early on, so that way you know what you're competing with, if it's available before you start really branding yourself. So that's probably one of the very first things you need to do. Along those lines, you need to figure out what technology you want to use. And like Laura said, this is kind of an overview, broad overview. We'll get into details of different technology and things later on this show. But today, we just want to tell you the steps that you need to take to move forward. So the third thing you need to do is research technology. And we spend a lot of time, even though we have technology in place, we still spend a lot of time looking at new technology, reevaluating our technology. So you're going to want to do that. A client portal is probably the number 1 thing that you're going to need if you want to truly be a virtual law firm. And by virtual law firm, we don't mean working from home, working remotely. A true virtual law firm is in how you interact with clients. And so a client portal is crucial because you're able to accept payments, communicate, share documents, things like that. So you're going to want to look at that. You're going to want to look at tools that you can use that interact with your client portal. We use Practice Panther that has a built-in client portal. A lot of the big players, Clio, in my case, they all have the client portal option, and there are some standalone client portals. So again, we'll get into that a little bit more later. And outsourcing is also part of number 3 for us. So outsourcing is huge. By outsourcing virtual assistants, marketing, we outsource an answering service. So that way someone can talk to a person when we're not available. So that's a really big thing that you want to keep in mind when you are planning and trying to decide how you want your virtual practice to be set up. Dina Eisenberg is a friend of ours, and she has Outsource Easier. She's a business coach and an outsourcing strategist guru. And she actually, we like to offer resources, especially of, other women entrepreneurs, people that we know, but she has a course that she's starting up, and basically they're going to help you create a actionable plan to be able to automate and do your workflows and improve all those things within 90 days. So she has registration up through this Thursday, the 7th, and we will in the comments put a link to her course so that way you can sign up if you're interested, or reach out to her and look at what she's doing.
Exactly. Just to add on a little bit to what Brooke was talking about with technology is, technology is going to be your cornerstone of what you do with a virtual law firm. Like Brooke said, virtual doesn't just mean that you're working remotely. We happen to not have a brick and mortar space, so we do work at home, but that is not why we're a virtual law firm. We're a virtual law firm because we utilize technology in every aspect of our communications with the clients, except for that initial consultation call that we have. So you'll want to look, besides the client portal, you'll want to look at things that work well with the client portal, for different kind of, integrations and things like that, like
right.
Box.com, DocuSign,
right.
LawPay for payments, Stripe. We use additional tools for.
We use a lot of things.
We use a lot of things. And like Brooke said, we don't. If you are just happy with what you have and never look at the future, then you're going to get stagnant, and you're not going to know about the new things that are coming out because things change all the time.
Right.
We're slowly creeping in as a legal profession. We're very slowly creeping into the technological world. So
right.
So keep that in mind.
And it's good to have technology in one place. So we really try to start with like Practice Panther. We have the client portal. So what can we do to make the process not only easier on us, but also the process easier on the consumer side? And so what things integrate with what we're using, what things play nicely together. So that's kind of where we start. And then we evaluate those. And sometimes they just don't work for us. We have an internal communication that's very secure, very encrypted, very secure. But anyways, so we use that. It's Armor Text. It's been fantastic for us, and we use that just internally for us. It's a place, it's searchable. We have all our things right there. It's encrypted to the individual and the device, which is really nice. If someone loses their stuff, we can just wipe it clean. So that's another thing you really need to focus on, is that security when you're looking at your technology, because as attorneys, we have a duty of technological competence, and that's going to extend to the security. And that's why we're such a big advocate of client portals, not only because practically it, and functionally it works for the virtual law firm for both the consumer and the attorney, but also because it's more secure than sending email, because most attorneys that I know are not encrypting their emails, and that's kind of a pain on the consumer end. So we really advocate, if nothing else, for people moving to communications that are secured and encrypted.
Exactly. So just, since we're briefly going over our 5 key things that you need to know, social media, huge, obviously. So when you're talking about a virtual law firm, you don't have a brick and mortar space with your name we don't have MyVirtual.Lawyer just splashed out in the middle of downtown Little Rock or anything on a piece of property. So social media is going to be, something that you really want to start off. I would say even like Brooke said, when you're registering for your domain and creating your website, checking to make sure your names are available and you grab them up. At the same time, get all of your handles for your social media platforms.
Right.
We've had the we've had the fun of having our name kind of being held hostage in Twitter.
It is in the Twitter sphere.
In the Twitter sphere, someone who is
ransomed.
Someone who said, "Make me an offer," basically, who's never used it, and we just decided, not to worry about it, because we both have. She has a presence on Twitter. I have a little bit of a presence on Twitter.
Laura's on Twitter.
I've got a handle. I retweet some things, but you're going to run into those situations, and we know other business people that are not lawyers who have had that same issue where somebody's already snagged up their handle that is their business name.
Right.
So at the same time that you're registering for your domain and creating your website, go ahead and snag your handles for whatever platforms. Even if you don't think you'll use them,
just grab it.
Grab it.
Grab a Snapchat. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter.
Twitter,
Pinterest.
Instagram, Pinterest. Yeah, exactly.
Grab it up.
Just in case you decide to use it later. And, if it's available, great. But, it may not be, because especially the more kind of famous you get in your virtual law firm, more people are jerks, and they'll try to snatch that up and ransom it, like we've had happen with Twitter.
Hey, Amy.
So social media is a big one. Creating a plan for your social media is also huge. We have done a couple of different things in our world. We've been in business for about 4 years now, and have gone through some changes for not only internally, but creating a licensing platform to kind of spread out MyVirtual.Lawyer to other states. And that has obviously, made us more for our social media presence in different ways. We've used different agencies. We've done it ourselves. We've tried to work on things ourselves. This one's doing really well at that. So the social media that we have for the past few months has been broke completely. But use resources that are out there. They're not necessarily, like, if it costs a little bit of money, it's so worth it. For example, we'd like to give a shout out to Nicole Abood, who is she's
our branding guru.
She's our branding guru. She's kind of a branding and strategy specialist that is based out of California, that we work with in order to create our social media strategy for the two businesses that we own. One of them being a law firm and one of them being an outsourcing
platform. And she primarily works with lawyers, and she is a lawyer, a former lawyer.
Yeah,
she understands it really well. It's so important to give you direction and to really focus in on who your clients are, what you want to do, what you hope to accomplish. Because even though we feel like we know if we don't have the right processes to walk through that, we can't really get to the creative spot that we need to be.
Exactly.
So even if you're doing it yourself, or in-house, it's really important to have somebody there to kind of guide you, or even have that outside perspective to look at, hey, this is what I'm doing. Well, have you thought about this? So
exactly.
She's been fantastic.
Exactly. So utilize those resources that are available. And it's kind of like when you hire a lawyer or hire a therapist or something, make sure that you find somebody who clicks and who feels your passion and understands your vision and what voice you want to have. And they will be invaluable in helping you kind of hone your plan and your strategy. And sometimes, like with Nicole, what she did with us is give us kind of here's your week, here's what it needs to look like, here's, how you need to post. You can obviously switch that up, but here's just here's a starting point for you to kind of look at that, which is huge. So that's number 4 is social media. Number 5 is the fun stuff, drafting and automating. So this is going to take a little bit more time and effort, but it is so worth it in the long run, because if you're a virtual law firm, and especially for us, because we're a limited scope law firm, we charge a little bit less because our representation is not full service representation. So automating documents and things like that, it's helpful for anyone, but it's extremely helpful for us because we are virtual, we are limited scope. And it's going to take you a little bit of time on the front end, but then you can upload a document. Like I uploaded a will the other day, clicked the automate button, and it had filled out all of the address and beneficiary address and things like that. And I just need to go in and make sure that my drafting matches up with what they want. But that tedious, all the tedious things that can cause human error and all that stuff, it automatically does.
It's efficient. It's more efficient, and also, it kind of replaces some of your staff, I think. So you're not having to spend the overhead on bringing on new staff members, because you're able to take that little bit of time up front and really set all the automation up.
Exactly. So just a little recap of the 5 things. Excuse me. A little recap of the 5 things that you need to know when you're starting a virtual law firm. Research your rules and regulations, see what you need to know about that. Register for your domain and create your website. Obviously, if you're a virtual law firm, your website is going to be key there. Make sure that it's an ongoing thing. Look at the technology and outsourcing options for how you're going to actually run your business. Social media, make that plan. Utilize however you need to utilize people to assist you with that. And then number 5 is drafting and automating your documents.
So thanks for joining us today. We are here every Tuesday at noon Central Time, 11 Mountain Time, 10 Pacific, and 1 Eastern Time. Next week, we're going to be talking about loving your law practice and why limited scope representation attorneys like us love our practice. So please join us next week, and thanks. Bye.